With the lack of wheat pasture this fall and some challenges with the hay supply, lots of questions coming into the beef extension team. So here's SUNUP's Elizabeth Hokett with Dr. Dave Lalman.
We're here again with Dr. Dave Lalman, and Dave, we're still talking about drought topics, sadly, and people are starting to run through their hay inventory at this point. So what are some of the things we could maybe do to combat that?
Yeah, when a situational, dry conditions like this come up, there's a short list of things that most people can implement if they're forced to have to start feeding their hay supply early and they want to try to stretch it to last longer. One of those would be using a feed additive. Rumensin is the one that we've talked about before. We just published a paper on that a couple of years ago that has shown that it reduces feed intake but doesn't reduce animal performance. In fact, it slightly improves animal performance at the same time reducing feed intake. And that's a good thing, especially in times when you have limited forage supply. The other thing they can do is use an appropriate hay feeder that limits the amount of waste the cattle experience, because we've done research that suggests that there's a dramatic difference in hay waste just based on the style of hay feeder that's used. The other thing is to maybe roll hay out. There are some people who prefer to do that, and the way that is managed can have a big impact on the amount of hay waste.
Yeah. So let's go back to this Meninsen study. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So in the meta-analysis that we published, we found 16 experiments that looked at feeding Rumensin to replacement heifers, and in those results, where they measured feed intake and average daily gain, feed intake was reduced on average by about 2/3 of a pound a day. And average daily gain was actually increased or improved just slightly. And that's a really good combination. Can save money or help stretch that forage supply.
Yeah. We
found 6 studies where they measured feed intake and weight gain in cows, mature cows. And in those experiments, the average response was reduction of hay intake by about almost 2 pounds a day, and no change in average daily gain in the cows. So again, it just goes to show that feed additive will reduce feed intake without compromising animal performance. If anything, maybe improve it. In the cows, it actually increased milk production, and obviously lactating cows.
So how do producers get this? Do they need a veterinary feed directive to get this, or do they just walk into the feed store?
No, it's something that you do not require a VFD to add this additive to whatever concentrate supplementation program you have planned. But should work with their feed supplier and or area livestock specialists or extension educators to be able to help them, in terms of the feeding rate, in terms of the concentration of the additive needed for their concentrate supplement.
So I know you guys just started doing this research on Meninsen specifically, but for other feed additives, you do have fact sheets on those, right?
There is. Dr. Beck and Dr. Biggs published a real nice feed additive fact sheet, and Rumensin is listed in there, but also provides guidance on many of the additives available.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely.
And for a link to that study, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.